New tonight, Poland and NATO scrambling military jets as Russia launches a massive assault on Ukraine from the air. The Russian strikes hit several locations across Ukraine, including close to Poland's border. Just a day earlier, NATO intercepted 3 Russian fighter jets that flew into Estonia's airspace for 12 minutes. That's according to that country's foreign ministry. Let's get some analysis now from CNN senior military analyst and former NATO Supreme Allied Commander Admiral James Stavridis. He's also a partner at the investment firm, the Carlyle Group. Admiral, always great to see you. The Estonian Prime Minister says his country has requested NATO Article 4 consultations after he described this violation as totally unacceptable. We'd seen an Article 4 just a week or so ago after some drones flew into Polish airspace, and intelligence officials are still trying to determine whether the Kremlin sent those intentionally or not. What would these Article 4 consultations, you think, entail?
First and foremost, it's a total of 19 drones that flew into Poland. Seems highly unlikely to me that's accidental. And certainly manned aircraft breaking NATO borders, as you just reported, is hard to see as anything other than intentional. And I think there are reports also, Boris, of drones, Russian drones over Romania. So that's 3 examples in the last 5 days. The Article 4 consultations will set up NATO's response to these continuing incursions, and it should. Look, Putin is doing 3 things. He's trying to test the air defenses, tactically see how capable NATO is of responding. Number 2, he's trying to get NATO to say, well, maybe we shouldn't send all that air defense equipment to Ukraine because we got Russia banging on our door. And thirdly, he's trying to create some divisions in the alliance as nations will have different reactions and different levels of response. Generally, the further east you go, the closer you are to Russia, the more likely you are to want those Article 4 consultations to say, let's put up a pretty stern response to Russia that goes beyond just a memo. Let's get some jets in the air and get ready for action.
You wrote in a piece, an op-ed piece for Bloomberg this week, that these brazen incursions demand a NATO response in the skies. What are you hoping to see?
Number 1, the alliance increase its air defense posture. They're doing that. It's going to be called Operation Eastern Sentry. Number 2, get our air defenses up along NATO borders and in NATO capitals, but also continue to strengthen the Ukrainians. And third, tell Russia the next time one of your jets or drones fly over NATO airspace, we're going to shoot it down. I think this demands a kinetic response. I recognize that has the risk of escalation, but we need to remember who the aggressor is here. It's Moscow, not Brussels.
I also wonder what happens if we don't see that kind of response and we continue sort of plodding along as we have for not just weeks, but months. I mean, there was talk that there would be a bilateral meeting between Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, and that has not yet come to fruition. But now for months, there's been this promise from the White House that there would be some more forceful response, and we just haven't seen it. So what happens with that one?
We have got to see Washington link its arms with Brussels and do 2 big things, Boris. One is give the Ukrainians more offensive weapons capability so they can use it, not to go after Russian civilian targets, but rather go after the drone production facilities in Russia. Those are known targets, and we ought to help the Ukrainians go after them. And number 2, even more importantly, and this is where Washington and Brussels need to be on the same sheet of music. We need economic sanctions against those nations who are continuing to deal with Vladimir Putin, and we ought to be confiscating Russian assets that are in Western banks that were confiscated 3 years ago when this whole thing started. So we have cards to play. I think Washington, and specifically President Trump, needs to start playing those cards. Last thought, I took heart when President Trump quite correctly said, Putin, you've let us down. And I think it goes beyond letting us down at this point. Putin is condescending to us, pushing us, insulting us, flying jets over NATO countries. It's time to make a stronger response.
Admiral James Stavridis, thanks so much for sharing your point of view.